Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. My name's Leighton and today's a really sad day. It's sad because I'm saying goodbye to my Sony A7 II. This was my very first camera and it was the one that I learnt videography on. And I guess it'll always be special to me in a similar way to how you remember the very first car that you learnt to drive in, which in my case was Mum's Mitsubishi station wagon. And even though that was a bit of a shitbox, my fondest teenage memories were in that car. But as a wise man once said, you gotta learn to drive the Falcon or the Magna before you get to drive the Ferrari. And I've since upgraded to the Ferrari, which is the Sony FX9, which I'm shooting on right now. I've had this camera for a year and a half, shot hundreds of videos, but today I wanted to share with you my all-time favorite clip. And it's called the Ultimate 24-Hour Bone Broth. For those who don't know me, I'm a chef and I'm a specialist in making pho. Now, whenever people think of a specialist, they automatically think of a specialist doctor, but no one ever thinks about a specialist chef. And it might sound funny, but it's serious business too. And just like a specialist doctor, people book in to see me to come and enjoy a high-end soup. And the store here has a title for selling Australia's most expensive bowl of pho, the Pho Duck Bit Tam or DB8, which is currently on the menu for $63. So when you're selling soups that expensive, you better be able to back it up with a tasty broth. And in the video I'm about to roll, it just gives you a bit of an insight into just how much work goes into the pho here. I shot this over 2 days and broke it up into 3 parts, so I hope you guys enjoy. Hey everyone, and welcome back to another video. So today is bone day. It's similar to leg day down at the gym, except we don't skip the workout, nor do we skimp on bones. So behind me is a couple of cartons of beef bones, 120 kilos to be in fact, which by industry standard is quote unquote way too much bones to be using. But we don't really care because that's what sets this store apart. And we believe that the cornerstone of any great broth is a lot of bones, a lot of time, and if you got a rationale 311, that helps too. So in this video, we are going to be taking a closer look at how we process the bones here at PhoQ to produce a legitimate 24-hour bone broth. So that completes our bone workout. As you can see, there was quite a bit of work involved and a lot of heavy lifting. But now with that out of the way, I've set the 311 behind me to run for 24 hours, which is the maximum time that the machine allows. It's almost 11 o'clock now, so I think it's time to head off home. But before I do that, I thought I'd take a sample of the broth at the very start of the process so that we can do a bit of a comparison tomorrow when the broth matures at 24 hours. So if we take a quick look at it now, there's not much going on and the color's quite clear, but with a bit of time, we'll see what happens tomorrow.
You call me a saint, but you know I'm a stranger, all willing and able to do what you want. You think I'm a thinker, but I'm just a singer, all busy and pretty, just making believe. Boy, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling down to obscurity. Don't let me ever be this alone. I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling, I'm falling. Shouldn't be trusting me, I could be making it all up, you know.
Hey everyone, and welcome to day 2. The bones next to me have spent a full 24 hours in the pan, so let's take a look at what the broth looks like now. Alright, so this is what a proper 24-hour bone broth should look like. We don't fake our times here. 24 hours means 24 hours. And it's been going on that long that it's even developed a fat, crisp layer on top. Now, if we compare it to what we started off with last night, you can see that the difference is day and night. Colors look great straight out of the box, and I haven't even added any extra saturation in post. As for the clarity test, you can't even see my hand on the other side of the glass. Now this is a great little test next time you're out having any kind of soup, because doing something so simple as looking at the clarity of the broth can give you a good idea of how much bones was used and how long it was simmered for. So just to give you an idea of how concentrated our broth is, what I've done is I've chilled it, and now I'm going to empty it onto a table and see how it stands up. So I'm just going to run my knife around, get rid of the fat layer. Should have used a different glass. I wasn't really happy with that, so I think I'm going to do this again, but this time I'm going to pick a more cylindrical container. Okay, so we're going to try this again.
You look worried, and maybe you should be, 'cause this is a warning that I'm throwing out, 'cause I'm the worst player that ever will play you, to mix up sweet words with the girls.
Hey everyone, and welcome to part 3 of the 24-hour bone broth series. Now, Vietnamese people have been doing pho for well over 100 years, and when it comes to removing bones from the pot, even though we're in 2020, unfortunately it's still manual labor. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you a quick overview of how we remove beef bones here, as well as some tips and tricks. Now, people say you gotta go to a gym to get a good workout, but who needs a gym when you got a commercial kitchen? And I guarantee you that after you've lifted 120 kilos of beef bones for reps, you'll be ready to hit Cavill Avenue because you've got the pump. Now the guys here have done it that many times that when it comes to bone day, they're sucking down a pre-workout as they walk through the front door because they know things are about to get real. Which brings me to tip number 1. Use a heavy duty bin liner, because when you're dumping such a big load, forget the domestic and go straight for the heavy duty stuff. I recommend the Grunt heavy duty cleanup bag. You can find it in aisle 6 down at Bunnings Rockley, and it is really strong. Now on this particular occasion we ran out of the Grunt heavy duty bags, so what we did was we ended up using just our normal bin liners. If you're going to do this, then I recommend double or triple lining the bin. Since we're on the topic of Bunnings, this leads me to tip number 2. Use cable ties to tie off your bin liner. You can find these in aisle 47 of the electrical section in Bunnings Rockley. I frequent there at least once a week, so I know this stuff off by heart. And what you got to do is you got to buy the really thick ones. Don't go buying the pussy little cable ties because they're not going to cut it.
Not going to cut it.
Tip number 3 is to split the load. Now this one's really common sense, but if you've got 120 kilos of bones split over 2 bins, that's 60 kilos a bin, which makes it more manageable. Tip number 4 is to use a bin with wheels. Now, trust me, no one wants to drag a heavy bin 200 meters down the road to dump it. So save your energy and use a bin that has wheels on it. Tip number 5 is to team lift. Don't be a hero, save your back because it's not worth it, and grab someone to give you a hand to dump the bones into the bin. Now, for whatever reason, my camera stopped working when we did this, so I'm gonna let my boy Drake fill you in on this scene.
Way off in the deep end like usual.
Tip number 6, and I can't stress this enough, is you do not dump bones into a council bin. Because what's gonna happen is old mate's gonna come through and try and collect it on a Friday morning, and he's gonna try and pick that up. And then an alarm's going to go off in his cabin saying this bin's way too heavy. You'll end up with a big sticker on the side of the bin saying you shouldn't be throwing bricks and construction rubbish in there. And then you're going to spend the next day trying to fish out that bag of bones, and by then it'll be all nasty and smelly with the bin juices and the maggots, and trust me, life won't be so good then.
Life is good.
Tip number 7 is to keep the fat, because fat is flavor, and we've just spent 24 hours to produce this, so why waste it? I usually keep about a dozen containers worth, which I then use to sear brisket and oxtail and any other beef related dishes, which gives you a much better result than just using plain oil. So 120 kilos of bones produces 2 to 3 inches of beef fat, and it gives you a really nice shade of yellow on top. I refer to this as mobile yellow or beef fat yellow. Unfortunately, I end up with way too much beef fat, so we end up throwing out the rest, which is a real shame because I could have taken a leaf out of the movie Fight Club and instead of throwing that fat away, produce bars of soap with it. So after all that hard work, perhaps the most satisfying part is saved till last. And for me personally, it's pressing that tilt button on the 311 and watching the broth flow down. So this is a 1-to-1 bone broth. We started with 120 kilos of bones and we produced 120 liters of broth. These are divided into containers, which then go on to further processing to turn into the luxury blend fur, but I'll cover that in another video. So this concludes the 3-part 24-hour bone broth series. And I just wanted to tail off this video by saying a couple of things. Let's be completely honest, I know some of the tips and tricks in this video are going to be completely useless to a lot of people. If you didn't learn anything, hopefully it's been entertaining. I've got another batch behind me, and as always, thank you for watching. I'm going to let this one run overnight, and I'll see you guys in the next video.